Imagine this. A single narrow strait, less than 3 miles wide, holds an entire economy hostage. 1 out of every 4 barrels of oil traded on the planet passes through it. This is the invisible Achilles heel of the most powerful manufacturing machine in the world. But while the whole world is watching that strait, something is quietly being assembled in China's deserts, laboratories, and coastal factories. Something capable of making that strait completely irrelevant. 6 technological breakthroughs. One goal. And if you watch until the end, you'll understand why the next 100 years of energy power could look completely different from the last 100. China produces more goods than almost any other country on Earth. Phones, cars, electronics, industrial equipment. All of it requires a colossal amount of energy. And more than 70 out of every 100 barrels of oil the country consumes come from abroad, and from the Middle East, Africa, and Russia. But the real problem isn't where the oil comes from. The problem is how it gets to where it needs to go. Every drop of that oil crosses the ocean on a tanker. And almost all of those ships pass through one narrow corridor between Malaysia and Indonesia, the Strait of Malacca. At its narrowest point, it's less than 3 kilometers wide. This isn't a metaphor. It's literally a bottleneck through which 1 out of every 4 barrels of oil traded in the world must pass. If that bottleneck gets blocked even for a short time, factories shut down, prices spike, and supply chains around the world feel the consequences almost instantly. Military analysts call this the Malacca Dilemma. This isn't a new concern. It's been talked about for decades. Pipelines were built across Central Asia, deep water ports were constructed, underground strategic reserves were established. But none of those solutions eliminate the core of the problem. The oil still has to cross the ocean first. That vulnerable choke point became the starting point for the 6 breakthroughs we're about to cover. Each one was built with a single goal: to erase that dependency. Permanently. Breakthrough number 1, fuel from air. What if a factory could produce aviation fuel the same way a tree leaf produces energy, from air, water, and sunlight? This is no longer science fiction. There's a facility in China doing exactly that. Here's how it works. A machine pulls carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere, the same gas that comes out of exhaust pipes and builds up in the air. At the same time, solar panels power a system that splits ordinary water into oxygen and hydrogen. The oxygen goes back into the atmosphere. The hydrogen stays. Then the hydrogen is mixed with the captured carbon dioxide, and under the right conditions, those molecules rearrange themselves into liquid fuel. Not something similar to aviation fuel. Identical to it, right down to the last molecule. A jet engine can't tell the difference between this and what's pumped out of the ground. The company behind this is called Carbonology. The facility opened in early 2026 in Shanghai's Lingang district. Right now it's a small operation, around 100 tons of fuel per year, but that's just the starting point. The next phase is 1,000 tons, then 5,000, then a full commercial plant producing 100,000 tons per year by 2027. 100,000 tons of aviation fuel means thousands of trans-Pacific flights. Major investors have already put real money in. New regulations in Europe are already requiring airlines to use a certain share of clean fuel, and that share will keep growing toward 2050. Buyers lined up before the plants even reached full capacity. That almost never happens in any industry. Breakthrough number 2, frozen air as a power plant. Solar and wind energy have one fundamental flaw. The sun sets, the wind dies down. Even the world's largest battery storage systems typically last 4 to 5 hours. That's enough for a short gap, but not for an entire night. And definitely not for an industrial city running around the clock. Engineers in the Gobi Desert tried something different. They froze air. Regular air is cooled down to around negative 194 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, it stops being a gas and turns into a liquid. It can be stored in tanks, just like any other liquid. When electricity is needed, the liquid air is warmed up. It expands 750 times, spins turbines, and the turbines generate power. This facility is located next to a massive solar farm. During the day, excess solar energy that would otherwise go to waste is used to freeze the air. At night, the frozen air converts back into electricity and keeps the power running for 10 hours straight. That's twice as long as the best battery storage systems can manage. And there are no rare earth metals, no lithium, no cobalt. just air, cold, and industrial equipment that can be built anywhere. The facility has been operating since late 2025. This is no longer a prototype. It's a working power plant. Breakthrough number 3. Ammonia from sunlight. There's a molecule most people only know from the smell of cleaning products. Ammonia. But it has a hidden superpower. Inside it is hydrogen. The same hydrogen that when burned produces nothing but water vapor. No harmful emissions. The problem with pure hydrogen is transportation. It takes up a huge volume and requires either extremely high pressure or extremely low temperatures. Ammonia solves that. It acts as a container for hydrogen that can be shipped across oceans like any ordinary liquid and then extracted back out upon arrival. The traditional method of producing ammonia, known for over 100 years, requires enormous amounts of natural gas. It feeds literally half the world's population through fertilizer production. Without it, billions of people would go without food. But a facility in Shanxi province is making ammonia in a fundamentally different way. No gas, no fossil fuels, no extreme pressure. Just nitrogen from the air and hydrogen from water, at room temperature, using solar energy. The plant has already run for more than 50 consecutive days with the efficiency above 90%. This isn't a lab experiment. These are production shifts happening in real time. Japanese and South Korean companies are already testing ammonia-fueled ships on real routes with real cargo. Maritime shipping moves about 90% of all goods in the world. If it switches to ammonia, oil for those ships won't just become more expensive. It'll become optional. That one word changes everything. Breakthrough number 4. Hydrogen as the central thread. Every one of the 3 breakthroughs described so far requires hydrogen. Aviation fuel is built from its molecules. Ammonia uses it as the primary ingredient. Clean electricity production relies on it at every stage. Hydrogen isn't just one element of this system. It's the thread that ties everything else together. In 2019, China produced around 23,000 tons of clean hydrogen per year. By 2024, that figure had grown to 125,000 tons. Nearly 6 times more in 5 years, and the pace keeps accelerating. One province alone, Guangdong, is building a massive offshore wind farm specifically to power water splitting systems for hydrogen production. That single project is targeting 80,000 tons of hydrogen per year. But even more important is this. China produces around 65% of all the electrolyzers in the world, the devices that turn electricity and water into hydrogen. This is the key equipment for the entire new energy system. A country in South America that wants to transition to clean hydrogen needs an electrolyzer. An African nation building a green ammonia plant needs an electrolyzer. A European airline that wants to use synthetic fuel starts with an electrolyzer, and most of those machines will be manufactured in one country. The government has enshrined hydrogen in national energy legislation, on equal footing with oil and gas. The goal has been set to make it price competitive with oil within a matter of years. Even the country's largest oil refining companies are responding. One of them recorded a profit drop of more than a third in 2025 and, rather than resisting the change, invested nearly 800 million yuan into converting an old fuel plant into a clean aviation fuel production facility. A company built on oil is rebuilding itself around a completely different product. That says more than any forecast ever could. Breakthrough number 5. Fusion energy. All of the previous technologies still depend on something inconsistent. Solar needs sunlight, wind needs wind. Even the best storage systems just smooth out the gaps. They don't eliminate them. What if there were a source that never stops? No sun, no wind, any weather, anywhere on the map. That source exists, and it's fusion energy, the same process that powers the sun. 2 light atoms collide at extreme temperatures, hotter than the core of a star. When they fuse, they release an enormous amount of energy. No harmful gases, no dangerous waste. The fuel is hydrogen from water, and there's enough water on this planet to power reactors for centuries. China's East Fusion device, the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak, is a torus-shaped chamber that holds superheated plasma in place with powerful magnets. This year, it set a new record. It sustained a stable reaction longer than ever before in the world, surpassing what's known as the Greenwald limit, a technical barrier that was considered extremely difficult to overcome. Fusion energy isn't ready to power your home yet. There are still years of work ahead, but the direction is clear. and the resources being invested are massive. And when fusion becomes a reality, every one of the previous breakthroughs gets multiplied many times over. Aviation fuel plants will be able to scale without limits, hydrogen production will become virtually unlimited, and energy storage systems will have a constant source of power. A closed loop. Put it all together and you get something the world has never seen before. A complete closed cycle. Inputs are air, water, and electricity. Outputs are fuel, chemicals, fertilizers, and stored energy. Nothing mined from the ground, nothing shipped across oceans. Nothing tied to the geography of one country or one narrow strait that someone else can shut down. For over 100 years, global power meant controlling oil or controlling the routes it traveled. Whoever sat on the reserves had leverage. Whoever controlled the strait had leverage too. The map itself was a tool of power. But if energy can be produced anywhere from ingredients available everywhere, that logic falls apart. Oil reserves stop being a trump card. Narrow straits stop being strategic choke points. And the country that builds and sells the machines that produce energy literally from air becomes the one with real influence. Right now, that country produces around 65% of the world's solar panels. It dominates electrolyzer manufacturing. It exports the infrastructure of the new energy system, the same way oil-producing countries once exported barrels. The product is different. The logic is the same. This transition is no longer a forecast. These are construction sites with cranes and concrete. Hydrogen production is multiplying, oil refineries are being converted. The world that ran on oil didn't announce its own end. It just started losing ground to something faster, cleaner, and impossible to blockade. One facility at a time, one technology at a time. If this video gave you something new to think about, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. In the next video, we'll connect even more dots that you probably haven't seen put together yet. And one final question. If energy really can be produced anywhere from air and water, which country do you think is the least prepared for that kind of world? Drop your answer in the comments.